perfect. And then we've got all sorts of storminess happening. So I want to break down the timing for you hour by hour, give you a look at how we think things are going to play out. Because as Chris mentioned, there's a lot going on with this powerful storm system. We've got snow to the north. We've got a little wintry mix in southern sections of Minnesota. And we've already got the storms popping here across Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma. Things are really going to get going in this zone here in the short term. So expect storms to really explode there. St. Louis, you're going to be a spot we watch today and tonight as you are also in that Torcon of 5. And this is another zone where things look favorable for possible tornadoes. So a 60% chance, says the Storm Prediction Center, for a watch to be issued in this zone. So the Storm Prediction Center looks at what's happening. What's the heating look like? What do the upper level winds and mid-level winds look like? And when they say, hey, you know what, things are looking favorable for storms that develop to produce tornadoes or to produce severe storms, that's when they'd go out and issue this chance of a watch, just to kind of get it on our mind. If the watch is issued, that means we got to start thinking about where we are. If you're at work, if you are at school, if you are at home, know your safe spot, because once the watch is issued, that means tornado warnings could follow. And you can see we've got some pretty potent storms already showing up here around 72 and north of Quincy. We've got some hail, I think, already coming out of these. There's sub-severe criteria hail, so probably smaller hail, pea to dime-sized hail, but we're starting to see those hail cores on the radar. This, again, another zone where I think things are going to get going and get going quickly over the next few hours. And hail potential especially high into parts of Oklahoma and North Texas. So Tulsa and Oklahoma City, two metro areas where it's not just hail that's likely, but very large hail. Through tonight, Torcon values of 4 to 5 from the Red River through the St. Louis metro. Again, that would mean that there's the chance that these storms, if they produce tornadoes could be higher end, EF2 or greater. Future radar, again, we're watching areas around St. Louis. We're watching here in Oklahoma. So watch over the next few hours. You can see the storms really get going. They'll continue through the late day drive time, dinner time hours into the evening, and winds throughout the atmosphere are going to keep these things on the feisty side overnight. So this isn't going to be one of those situations where the sun goes down and we lose a lot of the punch with these storms. You can see they're still kicking around 5 o'clock in the morning for parts of Indiana and Ohio and even northern Kentucky. On top of all the severe risk, Chris, we've also got to watch for some really heavy rain, flash flood potential as well.
Oh, yeah. You see how quickly
5 range for Tuesday. So Tuesday now looks to be another significant day of severe weather. Again, greatest risk at this point, parts of Ohio, and this would include the I-70 corridor right through Columbus. We're watching I-75 from parts of eastern, or rather western Ohio into the state of Kentucky, northern Kentucky, and then again northwest parts of West Virginia. That would be like a Point Pleasant or a Parkersburg. Those Torcon values will be elevated. Now, low-level winds, they're going to keep our storms kicking overnight, so we're not going to see much in the way of a break. Tomorrow morning, we're going to already start the day with some feisty storms up along parts of Kentucky into Ohio, right along the Ohio River. Then we've got the energy for storm development farther to the south. So by midday, we've already got that daytime heating going, and so through the afternoon, a line of storms likely to develop through parts of Tennessee, parts of Alabama, parts of Mississippi. And again, the likelihood that we also see some of those dangerous storms farther to the north, because low-level winds aloft will be more out of the southwest, winds out of the south at the surface. That gives us that turning of winds with height, and that allows for storms that rotate, and that will increase the tornado threat. So when we look at parts of the Ohio Valley, you guys start off on the stormy side. Very heavy rain likely, thunderstorms. Look, as we get into the afternoon, you can see a few of these storms also bubbling up. Now we've got 5, 6 o'clock. Here come another line of storms. And notice how they've got like a little bit of an interesting shape, almost like a kidney bean shape. Those would be those supercell thunderstorms that could produce tornadoes, very evident by tomorrow late afternoon and evening. So a significant risk across parts of the Ohio Valley tomorrow. Those storms continue to move east, could keep things going during the overnight hours. I think the overall threat goes down as they move farther east. However, we could still see some potent storms into parts of Pennsylvania. Again, Torcon tomorrow, let's put 7 up there as we continue to update our graphics here. 4 to 5 farther to the north. So that would be a Charleston, a Lexington, Nashville, and Knoxville. Farther to the south, Torcon of 3, Chris.
All right, and then after the severe threat.
Well, all eyes on next week's total solar eclipse, 6 days, 23 hours away. And for the second time in 6 months, we get to witness the rare majesty of a solar eclipse. Back in October, of course, it was an annular solar eclipse with its ring of fire, but this time an even more amazing total solar eclipse. Meteorologist Alex Wallace and Molly McCullum explain what it is and what you can expect to see on April 8th. Is the excessive rainfall threat. A lot of these areas get in on big storms, and big storms produce big rainfall amounts. Now, once we look at areas, especially into tomorrow morning, where we're going to see some of the heaviest rain, we've got a lot of rolling hills, terrain in play across eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, southern Ohio, and then back through parts of Illinois and Indiana. We've already seen quite a bit of wet weather, so more could spell flooding problems. Southwest PA, extreme western Maryland also in the zone. Through tomorrow morning, greatest risk of flash flooding in the areas in that darker shade of green. So Kansas City to Springfield, all the way over into the middle part of West Virginia. Tomorrow into early Wednesday, we're again looking at parts of the mid-Atlantic into the Appalachians. So we've got eastern Tennessee, southwest Virginia, a lot of West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, southern Ohio, southwest PA, western Maryland. So some of those usual suspect locations. I know in West Virginia, the topography is what makes it so pretty, but a lot of times people live in the river valleys. Those are where those areas are where the water rushes to, and you can see very heavy rain starts tomorrow, especially during the morning. This Monday.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting the next 36 hours. But even beyond that, after the severe threat, we have interesting weather too. We're going to start with the severe side of things, but this has the potential to be a tornado outbreak.
Yeah,
so we got to watch out for
and
that.
then we watch snow into the Northeast and New England. Could be one of the most significant winter events for that part of the country.
And this late in the season too. You're dealing with power outages, down trees. It's a heavy wet snow, wind, not to mention a big factor there as well.
We got all sorts going on this weekend. This is not
and the eclipse is just a week away.
Away.
Right?
So thank goodness Easter candy's half off today, because I'm going to need so much sugar in the next week.
It's kind of a nail biting. It's like a movie. It's like living in a movie.
It is. It's wild. St. Louis, a lot of that activity is over into western sections of the state of Illinois, Iowa, southern Wisconsin. We've got storms there. Some storms percolating into parts of Kansas and Oklahoma too. That's going to be an area that will turn very active later today, and huge hailstones will be a likelihood across the southern plains. Right now, we look at, again, some of these storms producing perhaps some small hail. I definitely think we're seeing huge rainfall rates, and based on all the lightning strikes, we're hearing the thunder too. So if you're, an overnight shifter and you were trying to, get some sleep, I know it's not making it easy for you. Storm Prediction Center highlighting this area, saying, hey, this is one of the spots where severe weather does look favorable in the shorter term. So a 60% chance that they will go ahead and issue that watch. We, of course, will monitor that. If they issue that watch, we'll let you know right away. But essentially what you need to know is things look more conducive for severe weather here into parts of Missouri and Illinois. And this is what I was talking about. I think these storms are at least producing some small hail. You see some of those magenta cores in there. That would be indicative of at least some pea to dime sized hail. Yeah, we're not severe criteria hail, because you're like, why isn't there a warning issued? If we're seeing purple, they're probably just not big enough hailstones to get those warnings. Here go the storms firing off to the west of Oklahoma City. This is an area that's going to light up in the short term. So I think by an hour from now, we're going to be looking at a very different ball game here on the radar. Big hail likely. And I think it'll be a few waves of thunderstorms for parts of the southern plains. So I think that's our first go, and we'll see more storms develop as the afternoon wears on. Greatest likelihood of hail in the areas in pink through tonight. 2-inch or greater hail from parts of Illinois and Indiana all the way down towards San Antonio. Through tonight, we've got torcons of 5. That would indicate severe weather likely. Tornadoes are probably likely. I think we'll see some scattered tornadoes, and the tornadoes that do form in these areas could be on the higher end. So EF2 or greater. The stronger, perhaps longer lasting tornadoes. And then, Chris, we get into tomorrow and we keep that going. Actually, we've upped the ante on our torcons for Tuesday.
Yeah, it looks pretty serious.
Of the Texas A&M Smart Grid Center. Dr. Overby, thanks so much for joining us. I think a lot of people are surprised that a 4-minute totality, or less than 4 minutes, would make such a difference in the solar generation. How does that work?
Well, what's going to happen?
What are we going to do on the day of the eclipse to account for that loss of solar power? Are they going to be working with some other energy source?
Yes, that's exactly right. The good thing about
No luck today. We've got big-time storms likely, and then tomorrow the severe threat remains very damaging winds, very likely tomorrow as well. 75-mile-an-hour or greater winds for parts of Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. That would mean hurricane-force wind gusts, trees down, power outages possible. Looks to be a very, very active Tuesday. You out west, where we want to get a check of the Sierra snowpack. It has been a pretty good season. A lot of these running close to even above average. Monthly snowfall at the Sierra Snow Lab at Donner Pass. You can see once we got into the new year, things really got going. 73+ inches in January, over 100 inches in February, and almost 132 inches coming down during the month of March. So again, across a lot of the Sierras, we are either close to or above average when we look at that snow water equivalent. So if you melt down that snowpack, how does it compare? How much do you have in water equivalent? And how does that compare to average? So some good news here across the Sierras. Remember, the snowpack is critical for the water supply throughout the season, Chris, even more so than rain, because you want that slower melt off.
Absolutely. We're getting
recreation, right? The ski resorts are going to do awesome. They're going to stay running, but this is also critical for the water supply. So seeing a repeat of great years, that's a good thing. You know, a lot of times we have the ups and downs. We've definitely been on an uptrend the last few years. Kevin Cooper, founder of Cooper Marketing and Media, we thank you as always for joining us. Stoke level high today. Get out there and enjoy.
When is it not high?
Hoops is never not high. That man's Stoke level is always.
But man, 54 feet. That way he said feet, not inches.
Yeah.
Last year was absurd. I mean, it was destructive in some cases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Buildings
it became
were collapsing.
Too much of a good thing, but back-to-back high snowfall years. This is first watch of the day. A severe thunderstorm watch was issued recently for southeast Texas. Threat for severe weather ramps up as we finish off the day. Welcome into Weather Underground on this Monday. I'm Alex Wilson.
And I'm Chris Bruin. A lot to cover, and it's just a matter of time now before we start to see those warnings being issued. Things are already starting to change. We've got a TORCON today of a 5 for many of these areas, and we're watching closely Oklahoma, Missouri, up through Illinois, Arkansas, and even North Texas.
Yeah, and we think today is big. Tomorrow looks to be even more significant when it comes to severe weather. But let's start with the here and now. As Chris mentioned, TORCONs of 4 and 5. That would indicate a likelihood that tornado watches will be issued, tornado warnings. We're going to see them, and tornadoes that we get could be on the stronger end. And that's just one of the severe threats that we've got today.
Yeah, so the area I'm standing in down here across the southern plains into Oklahoma, we'll have a risk for tornadoes, certainly could have that threat, but also hail, very likely, and damaging wind threat. We're talking not just small hail, but large hail, over 2 inches in diameter or larger in that hot pink and darker purple areas.
That's the really damaging stuff. And then gusty winds, also a significant issue, likelihood for that into parts of Oklahoma, into parts of Missouri, into parts of Illinois and Indiana, even a little bit of like northwest Kentucky, and that's where winds could take down trees, cause power outages. So it looks like all threats on the table. Then there's the flash flooding risk too.
That threat too. And then the snow side of things. And then what happens after this? Because this is all tied to the same storm system. Starting in California over the weekend.
Yeah,
caused
this
some
is
flooding.
a very potent storm system. We've got snow out there right now across the northern tier. So northern plains, you're getting in on snow.
Hang out, because then what happens after that for the eclipse?
Yeah, you know, we've got a lot on the docket here for the next week, and unfortunately, a lot of it is active weather in the lead up to the eclipse. So that could even affect some travel plans and getting there. We've got a severe thunderstorm warning right now into parts of Oklahoma. So I said last hour, things are going to really get going across this area, and sure enough, now we've got our first severe thunderstorm warning of the day there in the state of Oklahoma. It is well to the north of Oklahoma City, but what we're looking for in this storm is some big-time hail. You can see the lightning strikes. There's lightning off to the south and west as well, so closer to I-40, really now to the north of I-40. We've got some significant lightning, probably some sub-severe hail out of that one, but here west of 35, this is where we've got a dangerous storm, observed a severe thunderstorm warning, so that means they have seen the hail, greater than 1 inch in diameter. Garfield, Kingfisher, and Noble counties under the warning. Covington, Garber, and Hennessy in the path of this. We'll also watch for some gusty, damaging winds out of this one. So where is it headed? Douglas, Covington, Garber, Billings, and Tonkawa, all in the path of this one. Again, there has already been hail observed out of this storm. This will cross over I-35, a major interstate with a storm producing hail. Never a good combination, and unfortunately, we have our first of the day. Severe thunderstorm watch has been issued for parts of Kansas. This includes the I-70, I-35 corridors. Emporia, Independence, communities just to the west of Kansas City are under this watch. Now, right now, we've got a lot of activity up towards parts of Illinois as well. Peoria, things have been lighting up around you. And the Storm Prediction Center was watching that area as well for a possibility of a watch. But as we move through the rest of today and tonight, Really, the worst of the storms in terms of hail look to be focused into parts of the southern plains. So Oklahoma into Texas, but a likelihood of hail all the way up into the Midwest. These areas could see hail greater than 2 inches in diameter. That's the size of an egg or greater. So now we're getting into egg and tennis ball and baseball size hail. Really, really damaging stuff. Torcons, they're in that 4 to 5 range. That would indicate that tornadoes that do form could be on the stronger side. So those that are EF2 or greater, the higher the number, the greater the chance of tornadoes. And obviously, when you've got the higher numbers, again, higher likelihood that we could be dealing with a significant tornado. As we move through the remainder of today and tonight, we've got those thunderstorms from Illinois and Missouri through Kansas and Oklahoma. And take a look at all the white you see there, right? They look like bullseyes. Those areas of white and purple, that would be a hail core. So the future radar is saying, hey, we could get some big hailers out of Oklahoma City just in time for dinner time as we move through the evening and overnight. Now we've got the Midwest back into the Mid-South, parts of Arkansas lighting up during the early morning hours. And tomorrow morning, we start off with a big-time storm threat across the Ohio Valley. These areas tomorrow will recover in the afternoon. And, Chris, we could be looking at significant tornado threats during the day Tuesday.
Yeah, we're
not just in Cincinnati, but also Columbus, Parkersburg, West Virginia, getting down into sections like Chillicothe, Ohio. You guys are going to have that significant torcon. So really a bullseye across the state of Ohio, parts of the Ohio Valley of West Virginia and Kentucky. Torcon of 5 into sections of Kentucky, into parts of Tennessee. Torcon of 4 for a place like Nashville. And then northern Alabama, also a greater risk for severe weather tomorrow. But you can see a lot of the southeast, the Mid-South tomorrow, bracing for some strong storms all the way up through the Midwest. Tomorrow morning, we start off active because remember the storms from today and tonight, they're going to continue to move east. So things are still going to stay punchy. We're like off to the races tomorrow morning. So you wake up, you may be up against some big time storms for that morning drive. Don't want that to surprise you. Parts of the Ohio Valley, I think, would be at greatest risk of seeing some of that. Then we've got the energy on the up and up during the day. So remember, daytime heating is going to help to fuel more storms during the afternoon. And you can see the future radar shows storms get going midday through the afternoon, and they'll be especially potent into the mid and late afternoon and evening. So Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, things will be very, very stormy. Then we look at the afternoon as we've got some turning of winds with height more up in this zone. So now we've got those winds out of the west-southwest. At the surface, we've got southerly winds. So that tells us we've got that turning of winds with height. That's going to allow for rotating thunderstorms, more significant tornado threat later today. So, yeah, we start off stormy in these areas. This isn't it. So Columbus, I don't want you to be like, oh, it was storming this morning. That's it. Watch as we get into the middle and late afternoon. Storms get going here across Illinois and the state of Indiana. They're going to be especially potent as we move towards dinner time in the evening hours. And you can see while lined up, we see this shape that kind of looks like a kidney bean, right? So it's kind of like a little curvature to it. That would be a supercell thunderstorm. That would be something that could produce some hail, but especially a tornado. We'll see those storms move east during the overnight and into Wednesday morning. They lose their punch as they do, but still could be on the spicy side for parts of Pennsylvania and the mid-Atlantic. Severe thunderstorms likely tomorrow. Again, greatest risk of tornadoes would be across Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana. But, Chris, we've got a ton of people in the zone on Tuesday.
Okay, so then what happens?
Heavy rain potential, severe weather potential, and heavy rain, unfortunately, will lead to some flooding issues. Flood alerts are posted from parts of Illinois and Indiana through Kentucky, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Ohio. A little bit of Virginia included as well. Those are in effect through tomorrow. So we'll be watching for possible river flooding in those areas. Flash flooding, the graphics updating, but trust me, it's parts of the Ohio Valley today and tonight, and then tomorrow into early Wednesday. Now we look at some of the more mountainous areas, West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, southwest Virginia, eastern Tennessee. So parts of the Appalachians and areas off to the east where heavy rain could lead to some flash flooding problems. You can see this afternoon, this evening, really tonight and into tomorrow morning, storms get going. They'll bring us some heavy rain. So by the time all is said and done, it's just going to be too much for some of these areas to take, especially, again, where we've got terrain in play. Thunderstorms out there during the day tomorrow. And, of course, around the Great Lakes, seeing some snow into the end part of the week. Could be looking at a significant winter event for parts of New England. We'll talk more about that coming up. So we've got a lot to watch here on this Monday, and Tuesday looks to be just as active, if not more so, when it comes to tornadoes. This is Weather Underground. I'm Alex Wilson here with Chris Bruin. Really dangerous day expected today, tonight, and then again tomorrow.
And pretty much from now through tomorrow night, it's going to be nonstop.
Yeah.
It's just going to, not in the same areas. It will be spreading east,
right.
But we've got to start watching these warnings that are going to be popping up. Won't be long before we see tornadoes.
Yeah, we've got extended coverage for you guys tonight, too. I-35, I-44, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, McAllister, Ardmore, Denton, Texas. You are under that tornado watch until 9 o'clock. Farther to the south, a new severe thunderstorm watch in effect for areas west of Dallas-Fort Worth. We've got lots of thunderstorms. Remember, about an hour ago, I said this is the area that's going to really start going. And sure enough, these storms have exploded. We've got severe warnings up and down this corridor of storms. Hail, gusty, damaging winds. But the hail potential is significant today across parts of Oklahoma. A severe thunderstorm watch along I-20 in South San Angelo, Abilene included within this until 9 o'clock local time. So, again, there's a lot of real estate. You can see the storms getting going here on the north and west side of San Angelo. They're going to continue to intensify as the afternoon wears on. But again, a closer look at what's happening here in Oklahoma. Garfield, Kingfisher, and Noble counties under the severe thunderstorm warning. Either side of I-35, you can see the hail cores in these. So these storms are producing hail. They are going to be moving over I-35 if they haven't already, and that means vehicles, hail, not a good combo. So if you can hold off on travel here along I-35, I would. You do not want to be driving through that. Kay and Noble counties under a severe thunderstorm warning. We've got Caw City, Ponca City, and Red Rock under this warning until the top of the hour. These are eventually going to be moving into parts of Kansas. Osage County, you're under the warning for the same storm as it continues to move off to the north and east. So Burbank and McCord in the path of this one. So those storms, again, they started, they quickly took off. Conditions favorable for these storms with really strong updrafts. So hail, one of our most significant threats here across the state of Oklahoma today. But as Chris mentioned, we look at places like St. Louis and Illinois during the day today and tonight for more storms. Closer look here into Illinois. We've got a lot of thunderstorms, nothing severe warned, but plenty of lightning has been coming down, and there are pockets of heavier downpours. So there's a flash flood threat today, too. We've got rounds of storms that are going to be offering up big-time downpours. That could cause some water problems. 2-inch or greater hail in diameter. That's egg size or larger anywhere in that zone. Very likely we see hail today across parts of Oklahoma and Texas. Torcons through tonight in that 4 to 5 zone. So we've got a lot of people, a lot of areas where the tornado risk is higher, and where the tornadoes we likely see could be on the stronger side. So when you've got torcons in that 4 to 5 range, that tells us we're going to see some tornadoes, and some of those could be on the stronger side, the EF2, EF3 plus in intensity. They could also be the longer track ones. Future radar, here go the storms. Again, Oklahoma, you're going to be really active through the afternoon. Missouri, very active through the afternoon rush hour. Overnight, parts of the Midwest really lighting up. You notice these storms don't really lose their intensity while you're sleeping, so could be a very dangerous overnight. If I'm in Indiana, if I'm in Ohio, if I'm in southern Illinois, I'm sleeping in that safe spot because falling trees with gusty winds could be a significant issue. And wouldn't be surprised, Chris, you wake up tomorrow morning and the clock is blinking, so make sure you get your cell phone charged or some other way to have those alarms go off. Of the Texas A&M Smart Grid Center. Dr. Overby, thanks so much for joining us. I think a lot of people are surprised that a 4-minute totality, or less than 4 minutes, would make such a difference in the solar generation. How does that work?
Well,
What are we going to do on the day of the eclipse to account for that loss of solar power? Are they going to be working with some other energy source?
Yes, that's exactly right. The good thing of
roughly, how does it break up there in Texas? How much of the power does rely on solar versus the other sources?
Well, if we are running all our solar.
All right, we've got a lot going on in the severe weather department. We've got a severe thunderstorm watch in parts of Kansas until 9 o'clock. Also into parts of Texas, Abilene and San Angelo under the watch, and then a tornado watch in the middle. The areas, the counties, the areas shaded in red, that's a tornado watch in effect until 9 o'clock. Oklahoma City, Ardmore, McAllister, Tulsa, Wichita Falls, and Denton. So the north side of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is under this watch. We've got warnings right now across Oklahoma, the north central part of the state. You can see those storms are really firing around and north of San Angelo. That's where we've got some big-time storms, tons of lightning, heavy rain on I-20 right now. Not going to be an easy drive. And these storms producing hail on the I-35 corridor, both west and east, including Kingfisher and Logan counties. Large hail. And then we take you out west where we want to get a check of the Sierra snowpack. It has been a pretty good season. A lot of these running close to even above average. Monthly snowfall at the Sierra Snow Lab at Donner Pass. You can see once we got into the new year, things really got going. 73 plus inches in January, over 100 inches in February, and almost 132 inches coming down during the month of March. So again, across a lot of the Sierras, we are either close to or above average when we look at that snow water equivalent. So if you melt down that snowpack, how does it compare? How much do you have in water equivalent? And how does that compare to average? So some good news here across the Sierras. Remember, the snowpack is critical for the water supply throughout the season, Chris, even more so than rain because you want that slower melt off.
Absolutely.
Recreation, right? The ski resorts are going to do awesome. They're going to stay running, but this is also critical for the water supply. So seeing a repeat of great years, that's a good thing. You know, a lot of times we have the ups and downs. We've definitely been on an uptrend the last few years. Well, Kevin Cooper, founder of Cooper Marketing and Media, we thank you as always for joining us. Stoke level high today. Get out there and enjoy.
When is it not high?
Coops is never not high. That man's Stoke level is always.
But man, 54 feet. That way he said feet, not
yeah.
inches.
Yeah.
Last year was absurd. I mean, it was destructive in some cases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Buildings
it became too much of a good thing. But back-to-back high snowfall years. All right, tornado watches, severe thunderstorm watches posted across the southern plains into the central plains, and severe weather will continue to ramp up later today. Welcome into Weather Underground on this Monday. I'm Alex Wilson.
And I'm Chris Bruin. A lot to cover here. We're already starting to see warnings in several spots in the southern plains, even into the Midwest. And the big threat today is going to be tornadoes. We're talking about a Torcon that's, not on the low end of the spectrum. We're 4 or 5 here across Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, into Illinois.
Yeah, that means tornadoes likely. That means tornado watch is likely. We already have that for parts of Texas and Oklahoma. And that also means that if we do get tornadoes, they're a little more likely to be the stronger tornadoes, those that are EF2 or greater, and the long track tornadoes. So more likely to be a significant tornado. And
this is going to continue into the overnight and carry us into the day tomorrow, where our Torcon tomorrow is even higher.
Yes, Torcons of 7 tomorrow. So a 48-hour period of very dangerous weather. You can see it's not just tornadoes, though, today and tonight. We've got the risk of hail areas in pink. That's the greatest chance of hail. In fact, it's very likely. We've already got hailers across north central Oklahoma.
Yep, some of the severe thunderstorm warnings, which you'll get to, I'm sure, showing that in parts of Oklahoma, and then the damaging wind potential, which is likely east of Oklahoma City all the way up into St. Louis and even parts of southern Indiana.
We've said it throughout the show. Make sure things are charged, because you very well could be losing power with winds blasting through places like Springfield and St. Louis. You don't want to find out, tomorrow morning you wake up at like 10 a.m., your clock is blinking, and you're like,
what time is it really?
It's so late.
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen to you. So we take you to Miami, Oklahoma. We don't want that to happen to you. So we take you to Miami, Oklahoma, across parts of the plains, especially the southern plains. We've got a tornado watch until 9 o'clock for everybody in the red shading. The yellow, those are severe thunderstorm watches. Those go until 9 o'clock local time, Topeka and Emporia, parts of southeast Kansas, and then parts of central Texas, including Abilene and San Angelo, that I-20 corridor and south. The tornado watch right now, no tornado warnings, but we've got severe thunderstorm warnings, and one of those is for significant hail. I'll take you there in a minute. Want to take you to Indiana, though, because we've got a tornado possible out of this storm in Monroe County, the city of Benton under the severe thunderstorm warning. And in addition to gusty winds, they're seeing enough rotation within this storm to at least put a tornado possible tag on this one. So lowest level, most interior room where you want to be. This storm is off to the east of I-69. It continues to move to the east. Again, damaging winds could bring down trees, lead to some localized power outages. Closer look at our storms along the I-35 corridor and to the east. These are all producing hail and gusty damaging winds, some more so than others. So we take you here, Logan, Noble, Payne County, considerable threat tag on this because this storm is producing 2-inch diameter hail, or the potential is there for hailstones the size of eggs. Again, that is going to be moving over I-35 around and south of Perry. I would not be traveling that stretch of roadway right now if you can help it. If you know somebody on that road, give them a buzz. Say, hey, you may want to stay put with some big-time hailstones moving overhead. Logan, Noble, Payne, again, you guys are under that considerable threat. This storm bringing hail, very heavy downpours for Garfield, Kay, and Noble County, so northern parts of Noble County. And then Schindler area, you can see you're in the hail mix right now. now. We've got some hailstones coming down here as that storm continues to move off towards the north and east. These areas are going to be up against not just that threat for hail, but also gusty, damaging winds. So all these storms really bringing us that 1-2 punch of wind and hail. Very heavy rain showers coming down to Osage County here under the warning. 1 inch or greater hail through tonight. Very, very likely for parts of Oklahoma and North Texas, but really anywhere from parts of Illinois and Missouri down through Texas could see hail 2 inches or greater in diameter. So very large hail is the expectation today. We've seen this a few times already this spring or late winter, and we have seen it verify. So be prepared for really large hail. Start thinking about what's outside, what you don't want damaged, where you're going to park that car. Through tonight, Torcon's at 4 to 5. Again, we've already got the tornado watches for parts of Oklahoma and Texas. We'll be watching Missouri, including the St. Louis metro into western Illinois through tonight. So that's an area where we wouldn't be surprised to see one issued. Watch as this area really lights up through the later afternoon and evening hours. Again, things very active through Oklahoma. All those storms continue north and east through the overnight. They stay punchy while you're sleeping. The wind setup is going to keep those storms going. So, again, severe weather overnight into tomorrow morning. We get off to a fast and furious storm start tomorrow. Tuesday, 5 o'clock, you can see the Ohio Valley all lit up with thunderstorms. And we're going to keep things going tomorrow. I think tomorrow afternoon, extremely dangerous across places like Ohio. Chris?
All right, let's get a look at some of this.
Preparing for the storms overnight and then again tomorrow. Torcon tomorrow, not just the 7 there in Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Indiana, but then Torcon of 5 through parts of Kentucky, 4s and parts of Tennessee and Alabama. We've got a Torcon of 3 for Atlanta and Roanoke and Montgomery. So expecting a very active day of severe weather, really top to bottom. You know, tomorrow morning, we're already starting off with storms. The storms from today and tonight, they're going to keep going overnight. Low-level winds will help to support those remaining on the strong side. But then we get the daytime heating. We get that potential energy that's going to allow more storms to fire across parts of the South. So Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi tomorrow afternoon, things lighting up and down the line for you. Farther up to the north, here in the Ohio Valley, notice we've got those winds more out of like a west-southwest direction. At the surface, they're out of the south. So we have that turning of winds with height. That would allow a higher chance of seeing the tornadoes, the storms with the rotating updrafts that not just develop hail, but also develop tornadoes. So, yeah, tomorrow morning we're starting stormy, but we get a break midday. I want you to watch what happens over here during the afternoon. Watch as storms fire up, and they're going to be moving through parts of Indiana and Ohio. And that, while they're lined up, enough individuality, I think, that we could be looking at these supercells. So lines of supercells bringing us that tornado threat. Overnight and into the morning, we're going to continue to see those storms roll east. So places like Columbia, South Carolina, you're going to be pretty active as well. Travel forecast tomorrow, not a good one with the severe thunderstorms, likely damaging winds and hail and tornadoes up and down 64 and 75 and I-70 and I-81 and I-65. These are all going to be troublesome roadways. So dangerous conditions on the roads. If you're able to adjust, I would adjust, because especially tomorrow afternoon, gosh, you don't want to find yourself out there on an interstate with tornado warnings coming your way and bearing down on your area. Chris, at least the next 48 hours, very, very active.
And you know what, Alex, is going to stay that way even after the
system. We've got an eclipse that's going to be working through parts of New England all the way back down towards Texas. We are 6 days, 21 hours, 19 minutes, and 34 seconds away. Not that we're keeping count or anything, right? We've got our team stretched out throughout that path of totality. Looking at the European model, forecast for cloud cover does show a little bit more into parts of Texas, but we have seen some changes, some adjustments. Not unsurprising, given we're still a week out. GFS still holding in on cloudy skies through most of the path, with the exception of the Northeast. We'll continue to monitor, and of course, we've got teams